Greetings and welcome, internet friends. Going over the quest about completing the square, the first half of our quest. Oh, I've got my writing pen upside down. That's crazy. Find the value of c that completes the square. And so we had a little formula that our new c term is equal to b divided by 2 all squared. And so over here, there's my orange. B is equal to 4, so my new c is going to equal 4 divided by 2 all squared. And so I get 2 squared, which is, I guess I'll stay in the habit of writing those parentheses, which is equal to 4. And so my new c term is plain old 4. All right, where's my buttons? There we go. So x squared plus 4x plus 4 is my perfect square trinomial. They didn't even ask us to factor that one. It was a little annoying when your b was odd, just because dividing an odd number by 2 will create a fraction, but it's not terrible, not terrible. So the new c term would have been negative 15 divided by 2 all squared. I can't simplify that. Negative 15 all squared, however, is positive 225, and 2 squared is 4. And so my new c term is such, and I got x squared minus 15x plus 225 fourths. And so right there. And so that's how you find your new c term. Take the b, divide by 2, and square it. And we make a perfect square trinomial. So let's see, new c term here, negative 40 divided by 2 all squared is negative 20 all squared, which is 400. I think it's 400, which I'm a little bit worried about. Having to add factor, how to factor 400. Yikes! It's gonna have a lot of combos here. 400. So I'm looking for the factors of 400 that add to be 40. Well, all right. Well, let's start. 1 and 400, 2 and 200, 4 and 100. 5 goes into 120 times. 20 times 4 is 80. 6, no. 7, no. 8, yes. 8 goes into that. 10 times 5 is 50. 9, 10. Yep. 10 and 40. I haven't found them yet, right? I'm looking for the ones that add. I'm getting warmer though. 11, no. 12 would need a 3, no. 14. Is it 20? Is 20 the next one that works? I feel like it's 20. Yeah, 20 and 20. Yeah, boom. Oh, guys, I'm a crazy person. We did not have to do all this work. Well, I did it. I did it. It's definitely going to be that. Why? Because I've got a squared plus or minus 2ab plus b squared equals a plus or minus b all squared. This is the way you want to factor it, because it's a perfect square trinomial, PST. Here we go. So the perfect square trinomial way, much faster, is going to be a minus b all squared. A would have been the x, and b is half of this b term. And boom, way faster. Do not do this. Man, my brain, when I saw factor, I completely spaced out on using the pattern. I still would have gotten there, but yikes. Yikes. All right, let's solve these. So let's find a new c term. So here's b. So new c term would be negative 6 divided by 2 all squared would be negative 3 all squared. All is important there, and I get 9. And so I would add 9 to both sides. Let's fast factor using the pattern. X and negative 6 divided by negative 3, right? Divided by 2 gives me negative 3. That equals 25. And now the nice thing about getting these perfect squares, the square of a binomial pattern, is I can now solve by rooting both sides. Got to have that plus or minus, though. Don't forget it. I get x minus 3 equals plus or minus 5. and add 3 to both sides. Oh man, that fast factoring saves me so much time. 3 plus 5 is 8, and 3 minus 5 is -2. So there are both of my answers el más rápido. Question 21. Find my new C term. -5 divided by 2, all squared. So I'm taking this right here, right? I can't simplify that, but the fraction, but I can square top and bottom. So -5 all squared is +25. 2 squared is 4. And here's the inconvenient part, right? This is where, oh dear, I've got fractions. Got to add that to both sides. The factoring part actually still isn't terrible. It's going to be a minus b all squared. So it's going to be -5 halves, because I just take b divided by 2, or it's this value, that a thing that I had before I squared it is what will give me the fast factor. And now here's the hard part. I've got to add fractions. So let's see. Here's some more scratch work. Ready? 8 over 1 plus 25 fourths. Common denominator, multiply this by 4 over 4. So I get 32 fourths plus 25 fourths is equal to 57 fourths. All right. So wherever you do that work, doesn't matter to me. Right, on the test, though, you'll have to have that somewhere where I can see it. Plus or minus, after I root both sides, I get x minus 5 halves equals, I can root top and bottom, so I get plus or minus the square root of 57. Doesn't simplify, but the square root of 4 does. Oh, and that's actually not that bad, because this is also a fraction-y fraction with that same denominator. To get x by itself, I'll add that to both sides, and I get x equals 5 halves plus or minus the square root of 57 halves. Gross a little bit. A little bit gross. A little bit gross. And hey, those do have a common denominator. One could argue this isn't that much simpler to write it this way. But they wanted me to approximate, and so I'm gonna. Alright, I've got my handy-dandy calculator. I'm gonna do 5 plus the square root of 57, enter. I got like 12.55, and then divide by 2. Careful, if you want to try to enter this all at once, you'll have to make sure that you close a set of parentheses here. And actually, no, the division still wouldn't work. You would actually need to open a whole, man, yeah. Whichever way you do it, just careful with your PEMDASing. So one of my answers is 6.27. The other is going to be 5 minus the square root of 57. I hit enter here, and then divide by 2. And I got negative 1.27. Okay. So, yeah, these are answers that I never could have gotten until this strategy was given to me, right? And I can get the exact answers here as well, which is nice. Since they were looking for decimal approximations, I mean, you could have even just used this and done 5 halves plus this fraction. And as long as you're careful plugging it in, because we're going decimals anyway, like the additional simplifying with radicals wasn't necessarily necessary. The area of the patio is 216 square feet. Okay, all right. Find the dimensions of the patio. So let's see. So area formula, length times width. So I'm going to have, I'll write it down here, x times x plus 6 is equal to 216. So in order to solve here, I'm going to need to do some distributing first. I'd get x squared plus 6x equals 216. And now, yeah, I could try to subtract 216 from both sides and factor, but we're going to use our new method, completing the square. So let's find a new C term, right, that I'll end up adding to both sides. So, new C term is going to equal b divided by 2 all squared. All right, now we fast factor this. Not the slow way, Mr. Waddy, not the slow way. Over here is equal to 225. Fast factor, it's going to be a plus b all squared. B is going to be the b of the perfect square trinomial pattern. 6 divided by 2, it's the 3. Yeah, divide this by 2, that's one way you can fast factor it. Square root that number is the other way. The thing that I had right before I squared it. And just remember the sign always comes from there. So in order to solve for x, I can, let me get rid of this little dot. Root both sides, plus or minus. Don't forget it. And I got x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 225. I want to say 15, but I've been wrong. It's 15. It's 15. And now I can solve for x. Just subtract 3 from both sides. And x equals, so two answers. Negative 3 plus 15 is 12. And negative 3 minus 15 is negative 18. Two answers. All right. Thanks for watching, Internet friends. Adios.